YouTube viewers, and welcome to Go Figure Customs YouTube channel and part one of how to make a custom card. Or is it part two? Because I did that first introduction video. Was that part one? Or is this part two? Things that make you go, But this video, we're going to do the graphic art. I'm going to do a card start to finish. Show you how to use YouTube. I don't even know how to use YouTube. I'm going to show you how to use Photoshop. How to do the individual layers. How to do a little bit of minor editing. And get your card looking how you want it before you take it to step two, which is printing. Now, Photoshop. It is an exceptionally powerful program. One of the coolest inventions ever. I'm a semi-professional photographer. I have my own website. I've shot all over the world. And I do use Photoshop to edit my photos in post-production. So I know just even hearing the word Photoshop can be intimidating. And I'd like to state that what I do in Photoshop for my post-production of my photography is a completely different animal from what I do in making custom card backs. So all the tricks and tips that I know for using Photoshop for photo editing don't even touch what we're going to talk about today. So if you are intimidated by the program, afraid that you won't understand anything, don't worry. I basically had to start from scratch on what I'm doing to make custom card backs, even though I've been a semi-professional photographer for almost over 10 years now. It's not that hard. We'll talk about what you need to do. I recommended the website defont.com, where you can get free fonts. Some of the people that put the fonts up do request that you donate a little bit of money to them, and I recommend that. You know, people put time and effort into this. There's no reason to give a couple bucks to somebody that is helping you out. And we're going to talk about the layers in Photoshop and the templates that I use. And as I mentioned before, I'm happy to share all my templates. I'm really kind of branching out here and going to be stitching a whole bunch of these videos together, interspaced with screenshots and hopefully videos of me actually working in Photoshop. Video editing is not my forte. So if you're watching this, then I got everything done the way I wanted it to do. So let's start off by looking at some examples of what is indeed possible with making your own custom cards. And we're going to do that by looking at some of my cards first. I'm going to show you a couple. Here's an example of one of my Iron Man customs, and a G.I. Joe custom on a stock card. I like to call it a stock card. You know, the G.I. Joe line, the Real American Hero, they all came basically on the same card, just with different art. I kind of wanted my G.I. Joe figures, G.I. Joe customs, to look like they were all part of one toy line, so I came up with this card specifically for that. I think one of the easiest cards to make is a Star Wars card. Here's a couple examples of Star Wars cards. Because number one, there's a lot of art available. And as you can see here, I've used actually a picture of one of my own customs as the art for this. And there's a lot of the templates that are available are readily available for you to make your own card. There's just a lot of source material out there. Making making a Star Wars card the easiest card to make, which is why that's what we're going to make today. I'm going to make a Star Wars card. Uh, and if that's not your cup of tea, don't worry. You'll get the gist of how to make this. And chime in below if you want to see another type of card made. Give me some suggestions on what you want to see, and I'll make it happen. Because if this video is on YouTube, then I was able to do what I wanted to do with it, and I should be able to accommodate requests like that. And that's what I'm here to do. I'd also like to show off this one last piece before we get started, and that is to kind of show you just how far and how cool that you can go with custom card backs. And this is a 15-figure custom box set that I made for my Navy SEALs, and I did all of the graphic art myself in Photoshop. Had it printed and assembled it in the fashion that we're going to talk about in the next couple of videos. And for my first attempt at something like this, I'm really happy with how it came out. I think it looks fantastic, and it looks like something that you bought at the store, which is what we are trying to accomplish with making your custom card backs. We want your customs, you want your customs, I want my customs to look like their actual merchandise. And that's what we're going to do here. So first off, let's go have a look at Photoshop. All right, I've got Photoshop open on my laptop here, and I'm using Photoshop CC, the latest version of Photoshop. Photoshop's available. Used to have to buy it all at one time, and it used to be very expensive, anywhere from $500 to $1,000 a pop. Now it's a subscription service. It's $10 a month, and you get Photoshop and Lightroom in that package for photographers. Photoshop's your photo editing, and Lightroom is kind of to put it simply, is kind of your cataloging of your photography. And as a semi-professional photographer, I use both of those programs, and so $10 a month for me is well worth it for what I do. So Photoshop, and I'm using a Mac here. We're gonna just skip the flame baiting between Apple and PC on which one's better. I like Photoshop, or I like the Mac, because Photoshop was originally designed to run on a Mac, and the Mac has really good image quality for the monitor. So first off, what we're going to do is we're going to create a new project, and File, New, and as you can see here, I have a preset. Let me see my cursor. Yeah, okay. I have a preset here, and that's the wrong preset. There we go. I thought, yeah, there it is. No, I think they're all card template. Here it is. Card template. Width 6 inches by 9 inches high in portrait aspect. So you have portrait or landscape. Those are your two different perspectives. So when your picture is straight up and down, that's called portrait aspect. When your photograph is sideways, that's called landscape. So we're doing portrait aspect, 6 inches wide by 9 inches tall. Resolution, we're doing 300 pixels per inch. There was a really important reason why it's at 300 DPI, and I don't remember why that is, and I'm sorry. So I've got this preset to make a blank card, blank template at 6 inches by 9 inches. So I'm going to hit create, and there's your blank template. All right, let's hide that for a minute. Here's a nice picture of my desktop. I took that picture in England at Stonehenge. Luckily, there's no stuff on my desktop that's really embarrassing. Custom card backs is the folder I'm looking for. It's just off screen. So, the folder called Art, I have just tons and tons of stuff that I've pulled off the internet. Pictures, art, anything that I like to use for anything that I've used to make a card in the past. I save that because I never know when I want to make another card sometime. So in this folder, I have a couple of templates, and let's look at one of those templates. Here's a blank template for Revenge of the Jedi card. You can see this gray area is where your art would be, and I call this the name bubble. These are all my names. So this is what I call the figure bubble, and this is what I call the name bubble. And those are my own terms because I didn't know what else to call them. And this gray area here is where your art would go. Like I said, all of these are available on the internet, or I can share them with you. And let's see here. So there's this is the template for a Star Wars card. Here's the template for the figure bubble that I've made. Here's a template for where the name would go. I have a template for the logo that I use for my own. Like here's the template for my own. I don't want to call it a company, but you know, my own customizing stuff. Here's my own template for that. Before I had a hole punch to put the peg holes in, there's a template that I made that I added. Where it's at. Yeah, it was here a second ago. See, this is the problem with having too much stuff. Yeah, here's the template for my peg hole. But you can get a nice hole punch off of Amazon for, I think it's $25. To me, it's worth it. So let's see what we're gonna do here. We're gonna make a Star Wars card today. So let's pick a Star Wars blank template. So here's my template for a blank Star Wars card. This is the one that I use the most. You can see that I've removed what movie that it's from, because then I can add anything in there that I want. I can make it Expanded Universe, I can make it A New Hope, I can put Rogue One in there, I can make Solo, I can make Empire Strikes Back, I can do Revenge of the Jedi, anything that I want. So what we're gonna do, and you can see that I've got the numbers. All their cards are numbered. This is kind of one of my little, I don't want to call it secret, but one of my little neat things that I do with my Star Wars cards is that I number all of my cards using that. And I've saved all of my cards that I've made, so I actually know how many Star Wars custom cards that I've made. And each time I increase the number by 1. So if you see one of my customs and you see that number, you'll know what card number that is in the series. I don't usually tend to do the back of the card because I display my customs on a wall, and I don't really see the point in putting a lot of time and effort into making a back of a card for something that's never going to get looked at. So we're going to open this in Photoshop. Now, one of the first things that we need to do is we need to go up to Edit, Image Size, and you need to make sure the resolution is 300 dpi. All your stuff needs to be 300 dpi. This has to do with the quality of the printing, if I remember right. I don't remember exactly why. Like I said, I remember why I have everything at 300 dpi, but everything is at 300 dpi. And you can see the width of this is 6.1 inches and the height is 9.25 inches. So some of this is going to be more, won't be printed if I don't resize this. So to do that, I'm going to hit C for crop, and I'm going to go up to the corner, and I'm going to click and drag that. Okay. Now, we're going to need some art for this. So we're going to need some art for this card. And I'm thinking maybe we'll do a card for one of my old customs. So here is, this is my DeviantArt page. The Pros from Dover is my screen name on DeviantArt. I don't use DeviantArt anymore. It's just a pain in the ass to upload, to keep everything current on there. It's just a lot easier to upload stuff to Facebook, and I get more views on Facebook than I do on DeviantArt. But I'm going to use this picture here. We're going to see if this will work, and it may or may not, and I'll show you why in a minute. So I'm going to right click this, save image. This is how you steal stuff from the internet. This is my own picture, so I'm stealing from myself on this. I'm going to save that to I want to save that to my desktop. All right. Okay. Let's see. It did save it to my desktop. So we're going to open that with Photoshop. And that'll open it in a new thing there. All right. So here's our template. I'm going to go V, and we're going to move this. Oh, no. Yep. We're going to move this over to our blank card that we started, and you can see it doesn't quite line up. It's a little bigger than the card it is itself. If you look, you'll see it's cropping off the top. So what we're going to do is we're going to go up to the corner and we're going to shrink it until it fits on the card. See how it's getting a little bit of white on the edge there? Go back out a little bit. And I'm going to pull it to the side a little bit in there. And then I'm going to hit OK or Enter. And then H for hand. Your hand tool is kind of the tool that you want when you don't want to use another tool. And now you can see how I've got layers here. So background layer is my blank template. My layer 1 is my Star Wars template. So one of the first things we're going to do, all right, so at the top I've got two tabs open. I've got our blank template, 6x9, and then I've got my Star Wars template. Now, this gray area's got to go. This is where our photography or our art would be going. To get rid of that, I'm going to select the Erase tool, but a specific Erase tool. So I'm going to click and hold, and I can select from Erase tool, Background Erase tool, or Magic Eraser. I have Magic Erase tool selected, and that's the one I want. The magic erase tool will erase like things. So like if you want to erase, for example, all of this gray, it's a like color. So the algorithm will pick out all of the gray and it will erase it like this. Click, boom. Okay, it went from a gray to a checkerboard, white and gray. And the checkerboard is Photoshop's way of telling you there's nothing behind that layer, that there's nothing actually there. So I'm going to go back to the hand tool. I use the hand tool when I'm in between doing stuff so I don't accidentally click on something and make a mistake. All right, I'm going to duplicate this layer. You can see the layers over here on the side. This is layer 0. Duplicate the layer. I'm going to rename it layer 1. And hit OK. And I got these tool eyeballs here. I'm going to unselect the visibility, and this is the what layers are visible. I'm going to unselect layer 1, or the layer 0. And I'll show you why in a second. Now I'm going to click V, which will let me move this layer. I'm going to click and drag this. See how it's coming off of there? And we're going to go up to the top tab at the top, and I'm just going to drop it on there. You can see how it doesn't quite line up, so I'm going to drag it until it matches. Now, look at the top. You can see I'm getting some clipping at the top. The template for the Star Wars card is actually bigger than the template of the card itself. You can see the little box here up at the top. I'm going to, if you put your cursor over it, it'll give you a diagonal arrow. I'm going to click hold and drag that in until everything's this. You can see the white behind it now. I'm going to get it so there's no white behind it. But now I've got this white on the side. So I'm going to go halfway down. There's another box. I'm going to drag this a little wider until it fits. Hand tool again. I need to OK. You need to hit OK or Enter to accept the changes. Hand tool. And now you can see we have a blank card. All right. I am going to go back to the Star Wars template. I'm going to close that out. I don't want to have too many windows open in Photoshop because it gets confusing. I don't want to save this. I don't want to save any changes. I don't save changes to anything that I make because I make different things each time. All right, so we've decided that we're going to make a card for my Republic Commando. We're going to open that with Photoshop, and then I'll put that in the next tab. I don't know if this is actually going to work, so we'll see. The image, remember everything's got to be 300 dpi, so we're going to go to image size, and you can see the resolution is 72. Just about anything you download off the internet is going to be 72. You can see the height is 8 inches and the width is 8 inches. So when we change this to 300 dpi, it's going to make it a little bigger, but it'll still be the same, actually the same height. So 8 inches by 8 inches probably should work for this. Let's see. So you can see that this is a background layer and that it's locked. So again, we're going to duplicate the layer. We're going to name that layer 1. Okay. We're going to deselect the background. We're going to click that little eyeball to make the background not visible. We're going to click V once again, and we're going to drag this up to our first, and we're going to just drop it on there. Well, boy, it's kind of, I might have to do some editing in that picture before I really want to do anything with this card. So the layer, you can see here, is layer 2, but our template's layer 1. We actually want the picture under layer 1. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to click on layer 2, and I'm going to drag it down under layer 1. And then boom, now you can see that it's actually under the Star Wars template. Now this is kind of the, like I said, the Star Wars cards are the easiest cards to make because the templates exist. Somebody's already done the legwork for this. The hard part, and let's look at the internet here for a minute. And go to Google Images. Let's look at Stormtroopers. Here's a nice picture of a Stormtrooper. I think that's a Hot Toys figure. Yeah, Hot Toys figure. See how his head's clipped off at the top there? Let's look at another picture. See how there's not a lot of room between his head and the top of the picture? Look at this picture. Not a lot of room at the top. Here's a nice picture of Stormtrooper. His head's clipped off at the top. Here's another Stormtrooper picture. Not a lot of room at the top. Here's another Stormtrooper picture. Not a lot of room at the top. Where am I going with this? Well, look at all the room at the top. There's a lot of room at the top. Here, let's save one of those Star Wars pictures for a minute, and I'll show you why this is a problem. Let's pick one at random here. Here, well, I like this picture. It's a toy, but you know, it's a picture of a bust. I think a Hot Toys or a Sideshow Collectibles bust. So we're gonna save that image. Desktop. Hide that. We're gonna hide Photoshop for a minute. And we're gonna open this with Photoshop. We're going to duplicate the layer. Layer 1. Okay. Unselect that. Now we're going to drag this over to our template just to look at it for a minute. Oh, we forgot to see how that's the size doesn't work. We forgot to change the DPI on it. Oh, the DPI is 300 already. How about that? That doesn't happen very often. It's already 6 inches by 9 inches high. So to make this picture work, we're gonna have to stretch it out. Oop, I'm on the wrong layer there. Layer 1. So we want the art to be I want the art to fit. So to get to have the art all the way up through the top, you got to make it so you lose a lot of the art behind the name bubble and the figure bubble. This isn't actually too bad, but some of the pictures that I've tried to use, there's not enough room at the top for your picture. There's not enough room at the top to fill this whole area. And when you make the picture big enough to fill the whole area, you lose a lot of your details behind the name and the name bubble and the figure bubble. This is not a real good example of this. This isn't actually too bad. I'm going to delete that layer because that's not what one we're going to use. Delete layer. Delete layer. So I'm going to select layer 2. So we're going to make this fit a little bit better. I'm going to drag it down a little bit, drag it over a little bit. I'm going to shrink it down a little bit. just kind of center it. I've got enough room at the top. The figure is pretty much taking up the space in the middle. I'm going to hit OK to select that I like the changes that I've made. I'm going to go back to the hand tool so I don't screw anything else up. Now you can see the different layers that I've got here. I've got the background layer, which is the blank template of the card. I've got layer number 2, which is the photograph. And I've got layer number 1, which is the Star Wars template. Somebody has already put the peg hole in here. I don't want the peg hole in here. I'm going to put my own peg hole in. So we're going to Command plus to enlarge this. And I'm going to select B, or no, I'm going to select the clone tool. Clone stamp tool. So S, Option to select what area I want to use. Basically, I'm going to select an area of the card and I'm going to paint over it. It's going to paint over with what it sees in that reticle. So I'm going to select this black area and then I'm going to paint over. I'm on the wrong layer. Make sure you're selected on the right layer. See, we want layer 1. We were on layer 2, so it was actually painting over the card, or painting over the picture. All right, so Option to select the area you want to paint, and then click and hold. Click and hold. And then just paint over that area. I'm just going to paint over that area because I'm going to put my own stamp in there. Magic Erase might take that out, or it might erase stuff in the background. That's kind of the downside. You never know what Magic Erase is going to do. I want to be careful not to clip the Star Wars logo there. I'm going to enlarge that a little bit. See, my erasing circle is a little too big, so I'm going to use the circle's bigger or smaller. This key right here, this key will make it the circle smaller. And this key here, I don't even know what those are called, will make that bigger. So we're going to make it a little smaller. And I'm going to really enlarge it down to so you can start seeing pixels. Make it smaller. Option to select the black area, and we're just going to paint over that. And then back to hand tool. To get it back to the original size, Command 0 will rescale that. And it's still, you can see it's still kind of hanging off there, so I'm going to Command minus sign will make it a little bit smaller. Oh, and you can see that it's still, the template's still too big. So layer 1, V, and I'm going to rescale this. I'm going to drag it down until it fits. I go beyond until I can see white, so I know exactly where I'm at. There, and there, and then hit OK. I thought I did that. I don't know why they didn't save it. And then hand H for hand tool to resend it to so I don't mess anything up if I accidentally hit a key. All right. So our card's coming along. Let's try something here. I don't like the yellow. I don't think the yellow goes well with the greens and the tans in this picture. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to hit I, the letter I, which will bring up my eyedropper tool. And I'm going to put it over one of the greens that I do like, this olive drab green, and just click it, and then it will pick it. And then I'm going to hit G, which is your gradient tool, which also has your paint bucket in it. And then, boom. So I put my paint bucket over the area that I want to change, click, and it filled it in for me. Boom. All right, is that too dark? Is that too light? I don't know. Let's try a different color just to see how it looks. Eye tool again. I'm going to do the base of the color of the armor, the darker green. And gradient tool, G, for the paint bucket. Oh, I picked a gray for some reason. Thought it was gray. That's not right. Let's see, green. Oh, because it's where the light was reflecting. All right, G. It's kind of a brown. I don't like the brown either. I don't know why it's not picking green. Eye tool. There, that's a darker green. All right. Gradient tool again. Paint bucket. Click, click. It's a little too dark. It's kind of blending into the background. So the greens are kind of blending into the background. I want a little contrast. So I'm going to go back. I think I'm going to stick with the original colors. I'm going to use this light green. So I for eye tool, eyedropper tool, and G for the paint bucket or the gradient tool. And we're going to go back to these colors here. And then hand tool so I don't screw anything else up. Okay. Yeah, that's not bad. I kind of like that card. All right, so now we're going to work on this part here. What movie is this guy from? Well, he's my own figure. It's my own creation. So, but he's a clone warrior, clone trooper. So I could either go with Clone Wars, maybe. But I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to go with Expanded Universe. So yeah, I could do Clone Wars, Revenge of the Sith. But I think what I'm going to do is go with Expanded Universe. Do I have an Expanded Universe card that I can use? I'm sure I do. See, this is the problem with having so much stuff. So much stuff. So much stuff that I don't think I have. Which one is this? Yeah, Expanded Universe template. This is why I have templates. I've already done this. I don't have to go look for this because I've already done it. And image size, it should already be at 300 DPI because this is a saved project. Yep, it's already at 300 DPI. It's probably actually the size I want. I can't move the background layer, so remember I've got to duplicate this layer. Layer 1. I want to un-eyeball the background layer, push V again so I can move it, and now I'm going to bring, see I've got too much stuff open at the top too, so let's close that picture of the Stormtrooper. I don't want to save it. Let's close my picture of my Republic Commando. I've already put the art on. I don't need to save any editing that I've done to that. Now I've only got 2 tabs up at the top. See, when you start doing this, you get too many tabs at the top and it becomes confusing pretty quick. All right, so like I said, we selected V. We're pulling the logo off. And we're just going to drop it on there. And it's a little big. But again, not a problem. I'm going to select Command and plus to increase the size. I want to get right in here and have a look at this. So we're going to go to the corner again, and I'm going to shrink it down. Now, one of the neat things about Photoshop, I don't know where the edge of this layer is, the Star Wars logo is. what I can do is I can go over here to the side and I can check the opacity. I'm going to click and I'm going to change the opacity of the layer that says expanded universe. I'm going to change it to about 55%. And it's just an arbitrary number. You can just enough so you can see the edge of the layer, and then behind it you can see the edge of where you're going. This makes resizing things a lot easier because you know where you're at and you know where you're going. And you can see I'm getting it to the right size, but it's kind of going to the left here. So I'm going to have to drag it over a little bit. Still a little too big. Drag it over. I think it's still a little too big. Get it to the right size. Then I'm going to change the opacity back to 100%. Opacity 100%. You're going to have to click OK to save the changes to the size. And back to hand tool. And you can see that fits in there a little bit better. Oh, but look, it's about the right size that I want. But look at that. It's clipping over. See how the expanded universe layer is clipping over onto the Star Wars logo? I can either resize this to fit it in the box, or we can go back to the Magic Erase tool, that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to select Magic Erase. I'm going to make sure I'm on the right layer. I'm going to erase something I don't want to. So I'm going to be on layer 3, which is the expanded universe layer. And I'm going to hit it just on the black. Boom. All the black from that layer is now gone, making it blend in with the card. And it may still be a little big anyway. So I'm going to select V again, and I'm going to scale it down just a bit more. Zoom back out so I can center it. And I do all this centering by eyeball. All right. I think that looks good, so we'll hit OK. Hand tool so we don't screw anything up. Make sure everything's visible. And then Command 0. And there's your card. I've got a Star Wars Expanded Universe card here for my figure. But we're not quite done yet because we don't have a name for this. I don't remember if I came up with a name for this character or not. Let's go back to my DeviantArt page. I think I just called it Republic Commando. Oh, I had him named Det Cord from Theta Squad. I think maybe we'll just call him a Republic Commando from Theta Squad. So how are we going to do that? Well, you're going to go to dafont.com and you're going to download a specific font. Let's see if I can find that real quick. I already have it saved, but you should know how to do this. Dafont.com. I'm going to look for a Star Wars. I'm going to type Star Wars in the search engine. And then you get all kinds of cool fonts here. And I think let's go into Photoshop for a minute. I'm going to kind of do this out of order. I forgot I needed to show you how to import fonts to Photoshop because it's a little trickier than it might seem. Of course, let me take this opportunity to say that if you're having any trouble at any point in Photoshop, um, you're already in probably the best place to figure out how to fix something, and that's YouTube. Anytime that I don't know how to do something in Photoshop, I use YouTube to figure it out. Okay, now when I do my texts, I want to compress all of my layers into one card. Otherwise, the text it's just easier to flatten your image. So you can see the layers, channels, paths. There's a little icon here. You want to click on that, and I want to flatten my image. What that does is compresses all the layers into one background image. Now I'm going to select text. I think just T will select text. And then it's going to give you, it's kind of hard to see, a little transparent square. And you're going to start from the left side, click and drag it to the right. And it's going to give you a little lasso tool of where it's going to put the text. Now for some reason I've got text saved in this Photoshop, but that I don't know how it got there. I don't know what it is. I can't save it, so I've got to hit Command A to select all, and then I've got to hit delete to get rid of the text. Now you can see the bar here a little bit better. It's the same dotted line with boxes that we saw on the outline of the card. So I want to make the box the same size as the figure, the name bubble, so my font fits in there, and so it's centered properly. So I'm going to drag it's kind of like a lasso tool is kind of what they call that. I'm going to drag the edges until they meet the edges of the name bubble. And then we're going to look up at the top here, and we're going to make sure you can see these little paragraph icons. You want the one in the middle. We want to align the text in the center. All right. I'm going to change the color. So there's see the little white box? You click on it and it'll bring up a palette. I'm going to select black and hit OK because I want my text black on this light colored background. And then we're going to go up to where the fonts are listed. And this will probably be one of the last fonts that I've used. And there it is, SF Old Republic. I'm going to click that, and I'm going to start typing in here. I'm going to increase the size on this so we can see it a little bit better. That's what I should have done to begin with. And we're going to go Republic Commando, and we're going to go Enter. Theta Squad. My size on that is 12 points, and once you have that in there, it creates a new layer to the side. So to save the text, just click on the layer, and then you can see the name of the layer turns into whatever the text is. So let's zoom that back out. Look at how that looks on there. Now, since I already have the font saved, and I had to do this out of order because I didn't really plan this too well, and I apologize for that. So let's hide Photoshop for a minute. I want SF, what was it called? See, I didn't remember the name of the font. SF Old Republic. So I'm going to go to Firefox, Star Wars. I want to do a search. SF Old Republic. Spelled that wrong. Republic. SF Old Republic. There it is. This is the font that you want. this is the font that Hasbro uses for the names on their cards, at least on the vintage line. So it's free for personal use. So yeah, I don't recommend that you sell it. Hit download. It's going to give you a zip file. Save it. I'm going to hide all of this stuff for a minute. This is the other reason that I like Macs. Because what we're going to do, is it unzip the file number 1. So all of these here are fonts, different fonts. You've got italics, bold, bold italics, bold, bold italics, italics, and then just the regular font. So I'm just going to take the regular font. I'm going to click on my hard drive icon, and I'm going to get my library. I'm going to double click on my library, and I'm going to open the folder named fonts. It's already in there, so I'm not going to actually do this. What I would do is I just drag it and I drop it in my fonts folder on my hard drive, and it automatically puts it into Photoshop for me. I think that's fantastic. It's the easiest way, it's the coolest and easiest thing ever to put a font into Photoshop. I thought it would be a lot harder to import fonts into Photoshop, but that's all you got to do. So you drop it into your fonts library on your hard drive, and automatically puts it in Photoshop. You don't have to close out of Photoshop. You don't have to sync it. You don't have to do anything. It's in there once you drop it in that folder. Let's go back into Photoshop. All right, so we've got the Republic. I've got the name on there. What else do we want to do to this? We want to change the number on the card real quick. I'm going to flatten this image out again to use the text. So merge down, flatten image. We're going to Command plus to really zoom in onto this. First thing I'm going to do, I'm going to get rid of all the zeros. It's just easier to do that. So I'm going to use the clone stamp tool again. So S, or pick the icon. Option to select, so I'm going to select a black area, and I'm just going to paint over the zeros. Okay, there we go. All right. Text tool again, and I'm going to put the top left corner about the same height as the lettering, and the bottom is going to go to about the same as the bottom. So I'm going to click and drag, and it's not quite. I need to drag it up a little bit to the, get on that box and drag it a little higher. And if you remember, I said I've got some text saved in here. I don't know how that happens, so I gotta hit Command Alt and delete to delete the text. Now, my color is still black from when I typed my the name for my character. So I'm gonna need to go back up here, click on that color box, color picker. I'm gonna select white and select OK. I'm still in, for font, I'm still in the SF Old Republic. I'm still in bold. I'm still at 12. 12 might be a little big, we'll see. So if I remember right, there were 4 zeros, 2, 3, 4. And I don't remember what number card this was. So we're just going to say it's lucky number 13. Actually, I'm going to change the alignment of this to align to the left. So And you can see there's a little more space over there than I'd like. So I'm gonna drag this over until it gets about right where I want it. All right, hand tool again. I've got it where I want it, so I'm gonna go over here, I'm gonna click on the layer. Remember, it's going to, the name of the layer is going to change to whatever I've typed. So now that layer is 00013. And now let's zoom out and have a look at that. Command 0. I'm going to change the full screen for a minute just so we can look at this here, full screen. I'm going to hit F. So there's the card, full screen. It's kind of hard to tell with that black background, but that's what it looks like there. So F again, back to where we're working. Since this is my figure, I'm going to drop my logo in there. So I'm going to command hide. I'm going to go back to my art. And I have a template already. And I'm going to open that template with my logo. I'm going to open that in Photoshop. Remember, it'll open it in a new tab at the top. I'm going to hit V to drag. And I'm going to drag that on there. And holy shit, that's way too big. What do I need to do about that? All right, let's command minus sign to decrease the size of the image. And now you can see the edge here. It's way too big. Now what's kind of cool about this is go to the edge and just click on it once. And that will bring up the resizing menu at the top. Right here, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to move it, I'm going to decrease it by percentages. So I'm going to click on it once, and I'm going to type in 10. Let's see what it looks like at 10% the height. Ooh, that's still too big. How about 8? Eight is still kind of big. 5%. 5% is probably a little bit better. So it's at 5%. Now I need to drag it to where I want. So increase that a little bit. And I'm going to drag it. Probably, where do I want it? I want it here. Drag and drop, and then I'm going to hit OK to accept the changes on the resizing and the placement of it. Hand tool again so I don't screw anything up if I accidentally hit my keyboard, and we're going to zoom out. And that, folks, there's your card. That is your template. I used a blank Star Wars template. I used a picture of my figure, and just by getting, I think they used to call it clip art, off the internet, I got my expanded universe template. I downloaded my font from defont.com, and remember, for Star Wars, I used SF Old Republic. And keep in mind, we've got layers again, so I need to flatten out my layers before I save it. So I'm going to click on that. I'm going to flatten the image. Now it's all just one layer. And I'm going to File, Save As. We're going to call that Clone Commando Card. And I want to save this as a JPEG. And I want to to save it to my desktop. I want the maximum image quality possible, which is 12. Done. All right, I'm going to close out some of these other windows. I don't need my logo, and I don't need my expanded universe card. See how I've moved it? If I close it, do I want to save the changes? No, I don't want to save the changes that I've made to this. So there's my card. Let's hide Photoshop. Let's go to the desktop here. There's our card. All right, that's it, folks. For the printer, I need to convert this to my printer wants stuff in PDFs. So luckily, also what's nice about the Mac, so I open this with Preview. File, export as PDF. And see the JPEG is still in the name, so I need to take that ending off or it's going to confuse the computer. So I need to just take that JPEG, delete the JPEG part off so it just says clone commando card. And I'm going to save that to my desktop. Close that out. Now I have 2 copies of it on my desk. I have the PDF and I have the JPEG. My printer wants the printer I take my stuff to wants JPEGs so that the colors are baked in. Let's see here. Hang on a sec. And there you have it, folks. That's how you make a custom card in Photoshop. It doesn't get any easier than that. Star Wars cards, honestly, are the easiest cards to make because the templates already exist. It does get a bit more difficult, especially when you start designing your own unique cards, or if you're using different art from the internet. Remember, the most important thing is to get everything 300 DPI, and just rewatch the video if you don't remember how to do that, or Google search it, and it will show you how to get everything 300 DPI, so everything's the same size. Stay tuned for part 2 of the tutorial, which won't be until June. I'm sorry, but I can't take it to the printer until I get home, and I'm not home until June. That video is not going to be very exciting, just because I'm going to go to the printer and say, hey, print this for me. However, I will discuss the type of paper that I want to use for this. That's kind of the important part, and I don't know if it's worth its own video, but I'll see if I can make that a bit more interesting. And then part 3, when we actually get this back from the printer, I'll trim it down and we'll get this guy carded, and then that will be that. That'll be how you make a custom card. Maybe, like I said, maybe we'll do a more difficult card in the future, especially if I get enough requests for it. So what I'd like you to do now is to like the video, share the video, and comment on the video. Anything that's not clear, any questions that you have. Like I said, I'm not a Photoshop guru, and when it comes to this is not what I use Photoshop for on a daily basis, because as a photographer, I do a whole different aspect of photo editing for this. In Photoshop, this is baby steps compared to what's possible in Photoshop, but this is a good card to start with. But comment below, please, on anything that you'd like to see in future videos on the channel in general, and specifically on making cards. And thank you for watching.